Hi, I'm Lisa Cannon, and on Spotlight this week, we chat exclusively to the Oscar-nominated film director Jim Sheridan in Space 2. Spotlight in association with Space 2. Welcome to Spotlight with me, Lisa Cannon, here at the Stella Cinema Rathmines in Dublin. Well, he's Ireland's most respected filmmaker, what with Academy Award-winning films such as My Left Foot, In the Name of the Father, The Boxer, Brothers, and In America to his name. Yes, iconic film director Jim Sheridan sat down exclusively with me in Space 2 to talk all things film, and in particular, reminiscing about that 1990 Oscar win for My Left Foot and what it's like to direct the infamous method actor Daniel Day-Lewis, not once, but a whopping 3 times. Here's part 1 of my in-depth chat with Mr. Jim Sheridan. Mr. Jim Sheridan, how are you?
I'm very happy to be here, Lisa.
Thank you.
On April Fool's Day.
On April Fool's Day.
Not that you have me in just especially to make an idiot out of me.
Jim is certainly nobody's fool, what with multiple Oscar nominations and wins for his incredible films. But with the 94th Academy Awards now over for another year, what are Jim's memories of his unforgettable Oscar night in 1990 for My Left Foot, starring Daniel Day-Lewis?
Well, getting the announcement is like, for the first time, it's really, you could say exciting, but it's kind of a bit more than that. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's life-changing.
Of course it is.
Because you go from being a jobbing director to, you know, just making tons of money and being in a glamorous world, and you know. Mm-hmm. And I was with Joan Bergen, you know, the costume designer.
That's right, yeah.
When I got the nod that we got 5 nominations, and we were in the Chinese restaurant, and we hadn't got any Golden Globes from what I remember. Maybe Daniel got nominated. I'm not sure. And then somebody came in and said, "You got 5 Oscar nominations," and I was like, I didn't know who they were talking about, you know. And it was very interesting, you know.
Do you feel like you've made it when you get to that point, or are you a bit like the everyman, you know, where you think, I need to keep striving?
No, you just think that's normal now. I'll do another one and we get another 6 nominations. You know, it's very hard. The mind adapts really easily to, you know, success or failure. You know what I mean? It becomes normal, even failure or success. And, you know, inside your head, there's a little man going, you can make it, go on, you can make it. Don't mind anybody, and you're going up the hill like the train. And then you get a little bit of success, and you're like, I made it. I'll always make it. I'll always go downhill.
So those disappointments are there, no matter what age you are. It's the same as for all of us, but yeah.
It's like a band, you know. A band, their early stuff is always their spirit, you know. And then they kind of repeat that, and you can never repeat yourself artistically. Yeah. That's the one thing I learned. You have to always do something new, you know.
But I think, you know, your exciting trajectory is that you've stuck to elements that have been extremely powerful, you know, murder, you know, the Troubles. You've obviously immersed yourself in political dramas, and yet, you know, you've tag-toed with some incredible actors. I mean, everybody knows, and renownedly, Daniel Day-Lewis, right? 3 times. So it's like, you know, is it the fact that you've kind of pinpointed it for yourself, that you're like, that's the direction I want to be as a filmmaker?
Yeah, mostly, yeah, that's right. But like, let's take the North and Belfast, which I liked, you know, and in a way, Ken's movie is about this family that want to leave. And so the audience can go, oh, that makes sense, it's crazy. They're fighting each other, and it's crazy that Catholics fight Protestants, so they want to leave, we're with them. And I think the difficulty in making northern movies is once you go into the story of and try to explain why there's a fight between Catholics and Protestants, or the British and the Irish, it's too complex. It's not that people can't get it, they don't want to get it. They just want to not like that. It kind of almost like that's not entertainment, and it's very hard to get past that. It was kind of like very hard to get an Irish film made, and like the bar in Ardmore was full of hundreds of people all watching the Oscars at 3 in the morning or whatever time it was, going crazy.
Which we never had that representation before, you know?
No, it was a bit like Mayo winning the All Ireland.
Oh, well, if that ever happens. Daniel Day-Lewis almost lost out on the coveted role of Christy Brown. It was his Irish passport, his mesmerising performance in My Beautiful Laundrette, and a chance encounter that got him in. Jim Sheridan has fellow Irish film director Pat O'Connor to thank as they bumped into each other on a flight to the UK when Pat happened to mention Daniel's name for the part.
So I met him on the flight and he said, you know, Daniel Day-Lewis has an Irish passport, and a light went off my head. And I went, he's perfect. And it's hard to describe, because in My Beautiful Laundrette, when he appeared on screen, it was just enter a star, you know. Like you
hands down, I couldn't agree with you more, yeah. What is it about him that people are drawn to him cinematically? Obviously, we know he's won 3 Oscars and he's so heralded as one of the most important actors of our generation, but what did you discover from him? What light did he have when you directed him?
I don't know. You know, like any answer I give to that, I know I'll meet Daniel and he'll say, that's not what it was.
Do you think he'll be watching Spotlight? I hope so. Well, that's good.
Yeah. Well, he probably will sometimes see it. But I would say, you know, there's a really contradictory thing, that Daniel is like the most dare actor there is. And then you have actors who are really troublesome, who don't want to come out of the trailer and want to go back to the trailer when they sit down. And that's actually a good attitude to filmmaking. I know everybody thinks it's crazy, because it's such an unusual, weird occupation that anybody who's so self-satisfied to sit there and be happy on set, just performing, they're missing something. I think Daniel has a kind of different edge. Daniel is kind of more like... it's not that he doesn't want to come out of the trailer, but it's just that he wants to get it right. He's taken it so intensely deep that he will give all, and then he wants it to end. Because don't forget, when he's acting sometimes, like when he did In the Name of the Father, he said to Fran, my wife, she said to him, how is it, you know, you still have the accent? This was about 3 to 6 months after the shoot, and he was like, yeah, because Jim wants to do a reshoot. And Fran was like, oh, yeah. And so you still keep the accent? He said, yeah. And then she met him 3 months later, and she said, how have you still got the accent in your head? And he said, no, I'm hearing my own voice.
Wow. I mean, would you call that's method, right? Is that just a Daniel Day-Lewisism? Who knows?
Think about that on a human level. That if that was me and I lost Jim, I'd easily go over the edge and be kind of in a loony bin.
Then obviously you have to, a lot of people don't know this about filmmaking, but that you have to have kind of screenings for the distributors and people who obviously fund the project. And I know at that time Harvey Weinstein was, you know, distributing your film, and he had looked at it and he said, but nobody can understand the Northern Irish accent, and it's really difficult to do. And we're having a lot of complaints, and you know, it was screened in front of people. There was about 8 notes that you had to bring to Daniel, which he was not happy about. How do you approach an actor, whether it's him or other, and say, listen, I've these amount of notes, we need to work on it?
I don't do that, you know. I'm little fearful type person who's ruthless. You know what I mean? It's kind of weird combination. Okay. So it was my left foot, and Harvey said to me, this is what you can't understand. Daniel saying you have to give him these notes. And I knew if I went to Daniel with the notes, he'd say, who gave you those notes? And I'd have to say, Harvey. Right. And he'd say, tell Harvey to go off. Right? So rather than have that conversation, I decided that I would go to the cinema and see what the actuality was. And what the actuality was different to what Harvey had. Harvey had written out what somebody in his office or had listened to the movie and kind of wrote down like a few, 12 lines it was or something. And I went to the cinema, and it was when Daniel said one word that it was difficult. Like, maybe. What'd he say? Maybe.
Yeah.
And so I went back to Daniel and I went, oh, here's what can't be understood. And he said, well, where'd you get these? And I said, sitting behind people in the cinema. You know, and so I had more than Harvey. And even if I hadn't had more than Harvey, I would have added one so that I could say, no, some of them are mine.
And you can see part 2 of my interview with Jim Sheridan in just a moment. Sticking with film though, here's something to get excited about if you're an Elvis fan. Yes, director Baz Luhrmann, famous for the smash hit Moulin Rouge, is taking care of business and premiering his rock and roll biopic of the King, simply entitled Elvis, at the Cannes Film Festival in May. But before that happens, here's a sneaky peek for y'all of the trailer.
There are some who'd make me out to be the villain of this here story.
Let's don't let a good thing die.
Are you born with destiny? Or does it just come knocking at your door?
He's a young singer from Memphis, Tennessee. Give him a warm hayride welcome, Mr. Elvis Presley.
Get a haircut, buttercup.
In that moment, I watched that skinny boy transform into a superhero. He was my destiny. I wish to promote you, Mr. Presley. Are you ready to fly?
I'm ready. Ready to fly.
Tomorrow, all of America will be talking about Elvis Presley.
President, try not to move around so much during the tape.
I can't move, I can't sing. Some people wanted to put me in jail. The way I was moving.
They might put me in jail for walking across the street, but you're a famous white boy.
The way he sings is God-given, so there can't be nothing wrong with it.
Senator Kennedy has been shot.
Martin Luther King has been shot to death in Memphis.
That's all right for you.
Tragedy, but it has nothing to do with us.
It has everything to do with us.
Oh, my love, my darling, I've hungered for your touch.
Reverend once told me, when things are too dangerous to say, sing. I'm gonna be 40 soon, and nobody's gonna remember me. I need to get back to who I really am. And who are you, Oz? I just gotta be making the most of this thing while I can. This can all be over in a flash.
We are the same, you and I. We are two odd, lonely children reaching for eternity. The greatest show on earth.
The spotlight turns back now to the second part of my exclusive sit-down interview in Space 2 with film director Jim Sheridan. My interview with director Jim Sheridan was over 45 minutes and another 45 after the camera stopped rolling. Jim Sheridan's passion for other film genres is palpable and brutally honest. So when we got onto the hot topic of James Bond and the question mark over who will take over, well, I'll just let you hear for yourselves what he had to say.
I'm the only person in the world that thinks the whole James Bond thing is mad. And I kind of want to know why the audience accept that this man has a license to kill. James Bond, license to kill. Now, how do we have that? What is that in our head that allows us to think some human being has the right, not only the right, but a license to kill? Like, I would give a license to a dog, not to a human being to kill. It's insane. And we accept the insanity because we just nod, because we think, oh...
It's entertainment.
No. We think the rules of the world are this white guy from the empire has the right to go around shooting who he likes because the Queen told him it's okay.
And even though that's seen as entertainment, as in it's fictional, right?
Well, it is entertainment
do you
up
think
to
it's
a point.
just... Do you honestly think it's just, insufficient? It's unimportant, in
like my
terms
friend
of
Daniel Craig is 007, so I'm not going to go against Daniel, and I know him, and he's a very decent guy. I'm just saying that the entire concept of it has to be questioned.
What would you do? What would you do different then? If obviously it's coming
I
back.
wouldn't do that, and I'd make 007 license to kill all day long because I know every Egypt in the world is going to go see it. Like, hello, it's box office.
007 aside, Jim reckons there's only one other person in film who is bigger than Bond.
The Queen, anything with a dress like that, anything posh, anything with a big house will sell in America.
The Crown or any of that kind of stuff.
Anything. Like, there's no bigger show than The Crown.
I love The Crown.
Yeah, great.
That's what he said.
No, again,
I really liked it.
Everybody in the world is upper aspirational. Everybody likes the posh dress, and everybody wants to pretend that they're the prince or the princess, and we're not democratic.
So this begs the question, would Jim change tack entirely and direct comedy?
Yeah, I would, but probably not. No, I'm too...
Or a period drama. Would you look at doing something along those
Like, I think in a bar I'm funny, but, like, I don't know why I'm not funny when I get on a set. Like, you know what I mean? I think I don't have the self-confidence to make a comedy, because I remember Neil Jordan saying to me that after he made his first comedy, he was on the plane, and it was on the plane, and he sat there and nobody laughed for the entire flight.
Oh no, stop.
Yeah, and he was like, I'm not making another comedy.
I'm really interested in the casting process that you do, because believe it or not, we met in a flight a couple of years ago when I was working away, and I sat beside you and you were asking me, what did I think of this actor? What did I think of that actor? And then I saw that the actor I'd suggested and I liked, you ended up casting them, but I was like, that's great.
I knew you fancied Eric Bana.
Exactly.
Just let me put it that way.
Whether I knew or not, you actually took my advice or not, I'm sure it was just one of those things. But, I do find the way you cast people so exciting, because obviously we all know the backstory about in America with the two girls, and one tapped you on the shoulder and then she had another sister and she read the part right and she got the role. But is there a story behind, say, for example, Brothers? You picked... Jake Gyllenhaal and Natalie Portman. What makes you look at an actor and go, yeah, I want to have them in the role?
Well, it's funny that in that one I had known Jake Gyllenhaal for years, and I always really liked Natalie Portman. And Tobey Maguire was odd, he was Spider-Man. And I just thought I could get a performance out of him from his early years, Side of House Rules, that he could be strong, he was a little spoiled, I mean, like, he was used to having like a costume designer and two stylists.
Here. Yeah.
And I said, well, I've got 3 stylists at home, but like, I always just wear the same clothes because that's the way it's,
That's the way it is. Casting aside Jim's recent grisly true crime documentary, Murder at the Cottage, the search for justice for Sophie was critically acclaimed and saw Jim shift in a different direction. So would guerrilla-style filmmaking be something we can all see him tackle in the future?
If I could get a camera outside the house of the guy that I think was outside the shop in Skull the day before Sophie was murdered, that would be guerrilla style. And I would do that.
Okay.
And I have told the police who I thought that person was, and I don't think they seemed that interested. But they don't seem to be able to find him. So if we ever find him, I'll put the camera outside his house.
Do you, as a writer, do you stay up all night? Do you kind of burn the candle at both ends, you know, climb that greasy pole of kind of being a bit of a Benzedrine cowboy, you know, or do you actually write calmly? Can you write during the day? Where
I used
are you
to, when I was a kid, I used to, say I have to go away to write somewhere, and now I just do it as in the day, thinking. I just make notes. And really, it's about just telling a story till you understand, what's the simple way to tell it,
Absolutely. Jim, it's been an absolute pleasure. I could talk to you all day. I mean, we've so many movies we haven't even covered and couldn't possibly, but I wish you all the best with all your great endeavours, and I can't wait to see more what you do on film and television for us all. Thanks, Jim.
Lisa Cannon, Spotlight. I'm delighted to be here, and I'd be delighted to come anytime you want.
Thank you. You're my favourite guest. Thanks, Jim. Well, that's it for this week, but coming up on next week's show, I talk exclusively to Grammy nominee Sharon Corr from The Corrs. We chat about her new album, The Fool and the Scorpion, touring with the Rolling Stones, and the dating scene.
Dating is like, for me, it's like, taking on trigonometry. I have no idea what I do. I mean, it's a joke. It's a joke. So, it's like all this, everybody's on Tinder. Of course, I'm not on Tinder. And it's like, all this is, I'm like, could I just not, sort of meet somebody, like, naturally?
I'll be back again here next week at the Stella Cinema, shining a light on all the entertainment that matters. We'll see you then. Take care. Bye-bye. Spotlight in association with Space 2.